For today's video, we will be continuing our discussion on process costing, concentrating on our inventory cost schedule. So as a recap, we can use two methods in our process costing system, namely weighted average method and FIFO or first in first out method. Then we use our quantity schedule in order to plot our units to be accounted for and units as accounted for. So for this video, we will be concentrating on the weighted average method inventory schedule. Our quantity schedule weighted average looks like this. WIP beginning, add units started this period, add transferred in order for you to get the units to be accounted for. And then on the other side, we account for the completed and transferred units, add completed and on hand, and add the WIP ending to arrive at your units as accounted for. Always remember that the units to be accounted for and units as accounted for should always be equal. And then we compute for the equivalent units of production for the completed and transferred, completed and on hand, and WIP ending. Remember, completed and transferred and completed and on hand are always 100%. While for the WIP ending, we follow the percentage of completion given in the problem. And then add all of them to get your equivalent units of production for materials and equivalent units of production for conversion costs. Now for the inventory cost schedule weighted average, the first part composed of number 1, cost from preceding department, which is composing of WIP beginning, the amount, add the transferred in amount, then get the total. And then as you can see in here, you get your unit cost. And how do we compute for the unit cost? We divide the total cost from preceding department to the units as accounted for. So we label here the color as red. Now, number 2, we have the cost this department or the WIP beginning of this department. It is composed of material and conversion costs. So there's the total. Then we have the cost of production this department composing of materials and conversion costs. We need to add the materials from your WIP beginning this department and cost of production this department materials. When we add those two, we divide it by the EUP in order for us to arrive at the unit cost for materials. Next is we have the conversion cost. We add the conversion cost WIP beginning and the conversion cost of this department. Then we divide it by the EUP of the conversion cost to arrive at the unit cost. When we add the unit cost of material and unit cost of conversion cost, we arrive at this color green total unit cost this department. So as you can see, we add your cost from preceding department, cost this department WIP beginning, and cost of production this department. We arrive at cost to be accounted for. On the other hand, in order for us to compute the cost as accounted for, we have our finished and transferred. And how do we compute for the finished and transferred? You multiply the units completed and transferred with the unit cost of the preceding department and the unit cost of this department labeled as red and green. For the finished and on hand, you multiply the units completed and on hand by the sum of the unit cost from preceding department and the unit cost of this department labeled as red and green respectively. For the WIP ending, we distinguish the cost from preceding department and the cost this department. To compute for the cost from preceding department, we multiply WIP ending by the unit cost from preceding department with color red label. For cost this department, we separate your materials and your conversion costs. To get our WIP ending material, we multiply the WIP ending equivalent units of production in materials by the unit cost of material labeled as color dark blue in the problem. For the conversion cost this department, to get the cost, you need to multiply the WIP ending equivalent units of production conversion cost by the unit cost labeled as sky blue. Then we add the finished and transferred, finished and on hand, and the WIP ending total to get the cost as accounted for. Cost to be accounted for should be equal to the cost as accounted for. Any discrepancy may lead to error or there are certain units that are spoiled or lost during the process. So I hope you learned something from this video and don't forget to share this to other students. Good day, guys!